What is going on there, YouTube? And welcome back to another comic book video. This is the channel where we sit down and cover different comic book stories from Marvel, DC, and even IDW as well. But today, we are going to jump back over to Marvel Comics and continue our coverage over the current Daredevil series right now and pick up with Volume 4. Now with Volume 4, this right here is basically the setup for the big gang war we are going to see in the next video. It is perfectly moving pieces in the right direction for our next video. And so if you do like today's comic book video, please leave me a like down below and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. But I do hope you enjoy today's video. So with the opening of this book, we pick up with Foggy Nelson, who is talking to the new character Joey, the person Matt Murdock was assigned to because he is a parole officer now. He is also the brother of the guy Daredevil killed in our first video of this run. But the reason why Foggy is meeting up with Joey is because Matt thinks that Joey knows that he is Daredevil, where Joey tells Foggy that he knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. But then we pick up with Elektra and Daredevil, where we saw in the end of the last video that they're on a path of possibly getting back together again. And so we see them hanging out in the room of Elektra, but this is where Elektra tells Daredevil that Kingpin had a run-in with the Strawmans, which we did see in our last video, that the Strawmans beat up on Kingpin to prove a point that Kingpin is not in control at all. And so Daredevil goes to visit the Kingpin to see if it is true what happened to him, but Kingpin does not want to tell Daredevil it was the Strawmans. Instead, he tells Daredevil that he was happy for Daredevil getting out of this superhero life, that he finally had peace. But you have Kingpin tell Daredevil that with Daredevil fighting over a small section of New York, it will lead to the end of Daredevil. It will kill him before anything else will in this world. Then we pick up with Izzy Libris, who runs the Libris crime family. But remember, in our last video, the Owl, the mutant who is a leader of another gang, has been trying to take over her territory. And so you had Izzy go and run over to Hammerhead, who runs the third gang in the city, and ask for his help to take down the Owl. Except with her letting Hammerhead into her area, he is acting more like he owns both areas now. So now Izzy is losing her area to both the Owl and Hammerhead. Getting back to Daredevil, the words of the Kingpin keeps playing over and over again in the head of Daredevil, that Hell's Kitchen will be the death of Daredevil, but he still believes that God gave him his powers to save Hell's Kitchen from all the evil that is here in the city. That's when Elektra comes and asks how he is doing, where he tells her that he does not want to be Daredevil because the name is tainted, but he still needs to protect the city. And so you have Elektra telling Daredevil she has a plan. Now here comes one of my favorite moments in this series, which is Cole North going to his boss and telling her how things are going to go down here in the precinct. That Cole North tells her that he is no longer going to work on taking down superheroes anymore. He'll be going after the Owl, and she is not going to stop him, but also tells her that once he is done taking down the Owl, he'll be transferring over to Internal Affairs. And she is so shocked by what Cole North is saying that she basically agrees without even saying yes or no. Then we pick up with Daredevil and Elektra again, and this time it is them breaking into one of the company buildings owned by the Strawmans, where it shows the ability of Daredevil and Elektra being able to break into a place without tripping alarms and stuff. Now the reason why they are here is to break into the bank account of the Strawmans and use the money as a way to help out charities. It is kind of like Robin Hood. Of course we learn that Strawmans also hire ninjas to be security guards, but they're taken out by our hero. Now we get a page to see that Strawmans know that someone broke into their place because it was billions of dollars. They got images of Daredevil and Elektra as well. But to close on the first chapter, we see Daredevil and Elektra hanging out, and he asks why Elektra came back to help him. Here's the moment where he learns that Elektra has her own scheme, where she took $1 billion for herself for something big. Now, Daredevil does not give her the chance to explain, so he leaves. But after he leaves, we see in the mirror in her bathroom, she wrote Daredevil's name, Matthew, letting us know that she remembers that Daredevil is Matt Murdock. Because remember, in the previous Daredevil series, he made sure the whole world forgot that he was Daredevil, but somehow she found out. Following the next day, we see Daredevil visit Maria Carrero, the mother of Joey from the beginning of our video. Also the mother of the young man Daredevil killed in our first video, where he has been making sure this family gets everything they need because his guilt is eating away at him. Except this leads into the moment where Maria tells Matt that Joey told her that Matt is Daredevil, the man who killed her older son, where Matt is shocked by this, but she tells him that she forgives him, that even though it was her son and he was on the wrong path, she knows her son was on a path in life that could have gotten him killed, and Matt made a mistake, and she knows Matt is honestly a good man. But picking up with Izzy Libris, and this is the moment you have Izzy trying to regain what she lost from the owl and Hammerhead. And so she goes and visits Hammerhead, and this is the moment where she takes out Hammerhead. She comes to him to have a conversation, but of course he is not listening. And so we see that Hammerhead's men worked for her, or have been, where one of them ends up shooting him right in the head. And he's not dead though, thanks to the metal plate in his head. Then we get a page focusing on Foggy Nelson, how he is upset with the fact what Daredevil has been doing. Of course, you have Matt trying to explain that he has everything under control. And this is really a classic Daredevil thing, where him and Foggy are arguing about him being a hero. Now when Matt leaves, he meets up with Edmond, just somebody he knows in the neighborhood, where Edmund tells him that the money Elektra and Daredevil took did not just go to charities, but also gave to every single person in Hell's Kitchen. It is free money. Except Edmund points out that with them getting money for free, there's going to be some kind of payback for it. And that makes Matt think about the fact that how the police aren't doing their job. And the Strawmans took down Kingpin as well. So there could be some kind of payback coming. And so he goes to visit Sister Elizabeth at the church, and she has been this character introduced in these books as a way to give Matt someone to talk to about his problems. Except after he tells her most of the things he did, including the fact that he slept with a married woman, that he tells her that he is putting everyone's life in danger, and that to keep her in the church safe, he will no longer come around. She tells him that God will be there to help him, and he is always welcome back there. Then we get a page that focuses on the Kingpin and tells us two things. The first is that there is some big event going down tonight in Hell's Kitchen. The second thing tells us that the Kingpin has been avoiding events because of the Strawmans. The question is, will he avoid this one tonight? Shift focus onto the owl. We see him getting word about what happened with Izzy Libris taking down Hammerhead. And so with that, the owl knows that Izzy would not be okay with him being the Kingpin. And now he wants her gone. And so he goes after her family, and this leads us into meeting up with Mindy Libris. Mindy is the lady Matt slept with, who is married to Tom Libris. Tom Libris is the son of Izzy Libris, the leader of the Libris crime family. Except with everything going on with the gangs, Mindy wants to get her and her daughter out of Hell's Kitchen before something happens to them. As soon as she says that, that is when some of the Owl men appear in front of her and Tom. Then we get to focus on Matt again as he sneaks into the big event that is going on tonight in Hell's Kitchen. This event is one of those mask events, whatever it is called, where you have Matt go to confront the Strawmans. They don't know who he is, but they tell him their plan, which is to drive up the crime rate, to drive down real estate, then come in and burn the area down. After that, the area gets remodeled for a profit. And so with that plan now known, you have Daredevil leave. But before Daredevil is able to get home, that is when he gets a phone call from Mindy, where she is crying on the phone over the fact that the Owl men we saw earlier basically came to her and Tom and kidnapped their daughter. Now Matt has to go and save her from the Owl. We then pick up with the Libris family trying to think on how to get the daughter of Mindy and Tom back from the Owl. The problem is that the police won't investigate. For one, the fact that the police were told by the police commissioner, do not do your job. Secondly, they don't truthfully have any proof that it was the Owl who kidnapped their little girl. And so this leads to Mindy's husband agreeing on the fact that they need proof. And so his plan is to go out there and find a way to get proof, basically putting his life in danger to get his daughter back somehow. Then we pick up with Cole North, and remember that he has been on a warpath to fix the police department. He already yelled at his wife, but this time he goes after his co-workers, pointing out that there is a little girl missing and the police are not doing anything to help out. So he calls them out saying that they're supposed to be cops and cops were organized to help people. So he states that if there are any good cops left in the police department, are they going to help him and ignore the orders they were told? Which again was not to do their job. Then we get a couple pages where we see Matt call up Cole North, letting him know that he is working on the case of why the police were told not to do their job. Except now his focus is to find the daughter of Mindy and Tom Libris, where you have Cole North tell him that the good cops are ignoring the orders from the higher ups and actually going to help find the Owl and save the little girl. Continuing with the idea of these two characters who started off as enemies becoming allies. This leads into Cole North going to one of the hideouts of the Owl, where of course the Owl is not there, but he did leave a few men there to watch over the place. And so he rushes in and begins to interrogate the guy for information about where the little girl could be at. While talking to that guy, the other slips out and calls up the Owl on the phone, thinking that he is being sneaky, except outside the building you have Matt Murdock listening in and being able to gather information needed to find the little girl. So when Cole North and his partner walk outside, they are greeted by Matt Murdock, who tells them that he knows where the little girl could be at. They are moving her around the Harlem area of New York by a van. So Cole and Matt need to get inside the car and go after them, where of course they do, and they do find her and are able to save her from the guy who was working for the Owl. I mean, there was a few pages to show off them chasing down the guy, but for the sake of the video, it was really just Matt and Cole working together to save the young girl. But picking up with Tom Libris, who left his mom to find a way to get proof that the Owl was the one who set up the kidnapping of his daughter, we see him actually going to the home of the Owl to meet up with the Owl, where the bodyguard does take him inside to meet with the Owl. where you have the owl tell Tom that he is now going to be the kingpin. This is the part that is going to be very important for later videos, because you have the owl on the phone talking to someone about the fact that Matt and Cole were able to save the little girl. And so he tells his men, don't come here just in case they are being followed. After he does that, he tells Tom that his daughter is safe, but he won't see her, and he kills Tom off. And so now Mandy's husband is dead. To close on this book, we then proceed over to the Kingpin, where we have him getting a call from one of the Strawman's twins, where they inform him that they are going to show him that he lost control of this city, how they're going to purge the city and give a new beginning. That is when the story jumps over to the docks of the city, where a boat arrives, where we see a bunch of villains coming off the boat to wreck Hell's Kitchen, which are Stiltman, Rhino, Crossbones, Bullet, and of course, Bullseye, Daredevil's worst villain. Now, this is part of the video where I sit down and give my thoughts on about this book, or this story so far. Now, to be honest, I like this book right here, because it is basically setting up the big gang war we are going to see in the next video. In the next video, guys, it is going to be a huge gang war. But this book right here, it kept moving pieces in the right direction to set up the gang war we are going to see in Hell's Kitchen, but also the fact it does set up things after the big gang war. And so that's why I like these 3 issues right here, because it did close on the previous story, but it did set up for future books down the road. That's why I like these 3 books. Also the fact it kept giving us the idea of Cole North and Daredevil finally becoming friends. Because remember, in the beginning of our video series, Cole North hated superheroes, but he realized that the police and superheroes could work together to save Hell's Kitchen, to protect New York City. And that is why I like this book. But this is where I'm going to end today's video. So please leave me a like down below, and also subscribe to the channel for more content to come in the near future. Also, any suggestions on books I should read, well, please let me know in the comments below, because you never know, your suggestion could be a future video down the road. Later, guys.